Hey, welcome everybody tonight. It is not Train Tuesday, it's Friday, and it's the Athearn Extra, and I'm so glad you could join us. We've got a great show lined up for you. Hey, as you can see, we're talking GP9s, but not the one that you're seeing in front of your screen right now. We're going to be talking about the new Jeep9s that the guys have been extremely busy working on. Let's go ahead and mute this real quick, and let me get you guys ready for what we have in store tonight. We have got a lot of great stuff to share with you tonight. We're going to be talking about the Athearn Genesis GP9s. We're going to be talking about the Athearn HO SD40T-2s. And for the first time, too, I've got some really cool modeler submissions of some really good modeling that I want to share with you tonight. But before we get started, let's do a few shout outs and let's see who's joining us tonight on this Friday night. I've got Joseph, Sid, Canadian Locomotive Logistics, Idaho Rail Fan, Christopher, Matt's Conrail Chicago Mainline, Ian, Ted, Mike, John, Daniel. We got a full house here tonight. Now, it's funny, when I talked to you on Train Tuesday, it was freezing. My furnace was on. Right now, it's 81 degrees here in South Central Illinois, and we are looking forward to a great night of talking model trains. Let's see, who else do we have joining us tonight? We have Matt, Ian, Tim, Chessie, Herc, Sid, and Christopher, Lawrence, and Lauren James up from Canada. Thank you for joining us tonight. We've got DD40AX fan Bruce, and thank you for your kind words. I'm sure you were happy with that latest release that we had. We got John, William, Joseph, Harold. I think I saw Zach from the Galesburg area. We're so glad you could join us, and welcome to my workshop. It's a mess. It's probably not too different from your workshop, but there's always good things going on. Now, before we get started, I want to introduce you all to our guests tonight, and they are going to be helping me with this program tonight. We're going to be talking about, I'm really excited about it, if you can't tell. First, someone who probably needs no introduction, the man, the myth, the legend, Tony Cook from Model Railroad News. Hey, Tony, how are you?
That is quite an introduction, Jim. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's warm out finally.
Here too. And like, as you say, in one day, I went from running the furnace to, I turn the air on today. It's a little warm.
Yeah. It's a little warm, but it's,
That's
it's rail fan season now.
That's Midwest, yeah.
So, Tony, for those who are joining us for the first time, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you do it.
I am the editor of Model Railroad News, a monthly magazine that covers new product releases with what's coming out, what's just come out, reviews. Like you see that SD70M-2 in Vermont Railway behind me arrived today from FedEx, and I've been taking pictures and starting the tests on it. That'll be in our July issue that I'm working on now. I also am the managing editor of Diesel Era, which is a quarterly publication also from White River Productions on real locomotives of the diesel times, and then HO Collector, which is another quarterly that White River does on collecting old HO trains. So about 20 magazines a year there with
wow. So needless to say,
neat stuff,
busy
yeah.
man.
Neat stuff, yeah.
Neat stuff. Oh, great. Well, I have somebody else special, and a lot of you guys probably know him. He is one of the developers here at Athearn, and another busy man. This guy is always busy, and lately he's been extremely busy, and we'll see tonight why he's been so busy. It's been a little bit, but we're happy to welcome back Janek. Hey, Janek, how are you?
Hey, Jim. Doing well, thanks.
Good to have you on board.
Coming at you tonight from Tulare, California, former division headquarters of Southern Pacific, at least starting in 1872 and for a few years after that.
Excellent. And Janek, for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for us at Athearn.
Yeah, so when you guys see these monthly releases at Athearn with new paint schemes and new road names, that's generally what my team works on. And sometimes we do up to 200 SKUs every month worth of this stuff. So it keeps us on our toes, to say the least.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we see how many, on a monthly basis, how many new announcements Athearn has. And Janek is just one of the guys that has to go outbound, do all the research, work with the historical societies, check all that information. And sometimes, Janek, we've noticed this too, thanks to our fans. Sometimes we put some stuff out there, and our fans, they say, "Hey guys, you know what? It's awesome, but this needs to be changed." And that's been a big help for us in the last few years, hasn't it, Janek?
Yeah, it has been. Having thousands of eyes on these things once they go live versus 6 pairs or however many we have here, that can make a big difference. A lot of times you guys will have a photo or a piece of information that we just maybe didn't know about. That key 3/4 top rear view of that one obscure locomotive at that one point in its time, right before it got repainted or something, there's always that one photo out there.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And of course, Tony, where you're working with Diesel Era now, you know exactly what he's talking about when it comes to those little details that sometimes can be easily missed.
Oh, for sure. And that's, and again, that's one of in some of the pictures I've got tonight on the tunnel motors, I've got one run of a snoot nose from the mid 80s that shows both sides. And I want to remember to mention that for, if people want to submit pictures and everything. A lot of you have a great picture, but like Janek is, as he says, I need to know the back, I need to know both sides, and there's always details that you don't want left to guesswork, and it's tough. It's hard to really get that kind of coverage. But yeah, both for model work and what we do in presenting things in Diesel Era, it's like I need everything to the bottom of the fuel tank picture.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, one of the things we're kind of spoiled with modern day prototype stuff. Janek, I know you're a very avid rail fan enthusiast, and actually a lot of the guys at Athearn are active in rail fanning. So we have that possibility of just looking outside our window, if you will, and seeing the modern stuff. But where it gets really sometimes tricky, and I'm sure Janek will talk about this tonight, talking about the GP9s, is the older equipment. That's when we really have to dig in and talk to these historical societies and sometimes folks that actually work for that particular railroad, even though the railroad's gone.
Don't even get me started on those auto racks. Nobody photographed those things, it seems.
Yeah, that's there's always something. Janek, one of the things that you were talking to me about earlier, especially with the GP9s, is this release, we've got such a wide range of errors that we're doing. So it gets to the point where you've got a locomotive that's, depending on what era you're modeling it, it's 20, 30, 40 years old, and so much can change in those different decades.
Yeah, not only that, but they're spread all out across the country and even up in Canada as far as where they ran. So.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I like to do at this point in the show is, see what we're working on. It's been a little bit, Tony. I think it was back in February that you and I last did an Athearn Extra. It's been a little bit.
I was trying to think that today, because when it was so warm, I thought, boy, I think last time we did this show, it was bitter cold.
Right.
And now here it is feeling more like summer. So yeah, I think February might have been, the last time I was on. So I've had a couple of different projects going. I've got some pictures here I can share. Let's see. There. I've been working on some classic Athearn stuff. Neat. For Railroad Model Craftsman. I do a quarterly column there, Collector Consist, and I just submitted this in the last week. These U-boats are 50 years old, the models from Athearn. All were like late 71, 72 when this group came out. And so since they had hit the 50-year mark, and GEs are kind of uncommon for the Athearn brand, I thought they'd be a fun bit to run in Collector Consist. So I broke some of these out of the box. As you can see, these are not, there's no the bell and the horn that goes up here on the roof and the handrails. None of that's done. These are fresh out of the box, blue box. They are the newer runs that had the plastic truck side frames. These originally came out with metal. And this, of course, a U30B Illinois Central, a U28C Southern Pacific. And I came across this. This is a Chuck Zeller model that he shared some slides with us at White River, and he had some model slides in there. And boy, I think this is a fantastic job done to it. This would be a U30C masquerading as a U23, which is very close. I think it's the tall and short doors on the hood maybe made the difference in what they look like. But man, there's a nicely done blue box with some, look at the windshield wipers added, and took the grabs off that are molded on the nose and made them separate. I assume this is a vintage model from some time back, but very neat looking there. Here was the ad that introduced the 28s, or the whole series. They started off saying the 28s were coming soon. And then nationally, I think a lot of folks probably have this bicentennial. And this one, somebody did put the handrails on it and the coupler, so it's not as mint as it looks there. And it's with the twist ties, but I couldn't help but take a picture with the twist ties on, because I can't imagine now opening an Athearn box and finding like a Genesis model with a couple of twist ties holding it in the box. It's like, wow.
Can you imagine what people would say?
Yeah. And there's the full run of the 6 axles. Athearn did the 28C on the left, the U30C Phase 2 in the center, and the U33C on the right. They're really awesome models. It's always fun when you get some of these older things out, especially having all of them. I had to go digging to find samples of everything, but it was a fun piece to put together, and that's coming in Craftsman. I think sometime early this summer will be this story on the U-boat. So kind of neat. And then tomorrow I got big weekend plans. I'm glad the weather's good. I'm heading up to Spring Creek. The HO and N-Scale Fremo event is happening up there in Deschler at the community center where they have their show, every other summer. It's going to be there tomorrow, Saturday, 9 to 6, Sunday, 10 to 4. Man, I hope they have that good pie, because the pie and the barbecue and it's worth going for the food, and you'll stay for the trains. But yeah, that, and the shop is open both days. So that's our friends up at Spring Creek. It's happening there in south central Nebraska. And then here's some rail fanning. We have had a couple of nice days. It did finally warm up this week, but about maybe almost 2 weeks ago, we had one day that got up into the 80s, and my assistant editor, Shane Mason, and I took off. This is the Falls City sub of the old Missouri Pacific, heading out of Atchison, Kansas, up into Nebraska. And we went over there and shot that afternoon and caught a couple of trains. Really nice, really windy day. But we had about 4 or 5 trains in a row where literally we'd shoot one and then start heading back towards Atchison, pick up another. And there's a nice piece of highway there that follows them side by side. So really awesome day. And it was one of those first days where the sun was, really out, warm, and really feeling like, man, yeah, maybe it will be summer at some point. So, yeah. And that was the same week I traded my Lincoln.
Wow.
I got a Corsair. I traded my Nautilus for a Corsair, and that's my salesman over at Zech Ford in Atchison or Lansing, Kansas. But yeah, so new vehicle. It matches my dog Bandit's coat, so he wanted it.
I was going to say, is it really yours, or is it Bandit's car?
It's his. The dog seat got put it in immediately, and yeah, he's very happy with it. So he's pleased. And it's going to make its first road trip up to Spring Creek, which is the first road trip I made when I got my Nautilus a couple years ago. So
no kidding.
I get a new car and I go up and see the Zuckers in Nebraska. Yeah.
Wow. Nice. So yeah, you have been busy in the last few weeks since the last time we spoke. And Janek, I know you're busy. That goes without saying. What have you been working on lately?
I'm afraid it's not quite as exciting as what Tony's got going on. I mostly stay at home these days. No, I go out and do some rail fanning from time to time. There's one local train that originates in Tulare, and they're pretty easy to catch if you've got a scanner. So I actually got them yesterday, a few miles north of town. So I got to see a GP60 out on the main line, which is always nice. You see behind me the Fremo module back there. I actually didn't build that. I cannot take any credit whatsoever for that. That was built by my friend Michael. Did a phenomenal job on it. But hopefully someday soon, we keep talking about it, we're going to meet up again and set the modules up and run some trains.
Nice.
So that'll be nice. Other than that, not too much. There's rumors that I'm working on an auto train consist or something, but who knows?
You never know with Janek. He's full of surprises. That's great. I know for myself, tomorrow It's been a little bit because, COVID has shut down a lot of shows, but in Decatur, we've got a model train show that's going to be going this weekend. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then up in McLean, Illinois, hosted by McLean Depot, they're going to have a Fremo meet. They call it the Cornfield meet. I'm not sure why, maybe because it's in Illinois. But that is going to be a good time. There's going to be some HO and I believe some N-scale N-track there as well. So I will probably partake in both of those at some point. And yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a busy weekend. I know Janek knows this. I don't know if Tony knows this, but I've been working on an N-track module to get it done in time for Galesburg Railroad Days. And so that's been taking up a lot of time. But getting back to the subject at hand, and I'm pretty excited about this, I think the Athearn Rail Cam, it's really windy here in Illinois. I don't know what it's like in Kansas City area, Tony, but
we got some wind today. Yeah.
I think the wind in the yard has toppled over the rail cam. Yeah, it's kind of sideways.
Oh no!
We're gonna have to send a team out there to fix that. But Janek, why don't tell us a little bit about this month's GP9, the Genesis GP9.
Sure. Can I possibly share my screen here?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Let me see if I can figure it out.
I keep trying to figure out what that model is that Jim's got back there behind him. I think I know what that is. He's going to share with us later, but I won't mention yet.
No, it's coming later. So hopefully you guys can all see that. I got my cheat sheet up over here on the other side. Oof. So yeah, we've got some really different road names for this release of GP9s, some stuff that we haven't touched before. Northern Alberta Railways is definitely one of those that if you told me 10 years ago that we'd be doing it, I would scratch my head and be like, really? Northern Alberta? But no, the more I learned about it and the history of it, the more interested I got. And actually, I got a research package from a Northern Alberta Railways expert, and he just gave me everything: paint schemes, road numbers, spotting features, painting and lettering diagrams. It was just a complete package. And I said, wow, this makes it too easy. Now we really got to consider doing these. So for those of you who maybe aren't too familiar with Northern Alberta Railways, it was a joint CP and CN operation. The paint scheme that we're offering here on the announcement here, which is what we're showing in this picture right here, 1965 to 1975. It was changed, and the more I look at it, you see differences between road numbers and variations on the paint scheme and the pilot stripes, but generally this was in use for about those 10 years. These units, no dynamic brakes, but no need for them on the flatlands there. They had winterization hatches, bells up on the nose. You could find them in freight and passenger trains. Even though they didn't have steam generators, they would run them with a steam generator car. So this photo here is taken in July of 75. You can see here that it's parked with some CN units. So there's some opportunity for some run-through power there on the NAR. I worked with a couple of guys on this one too, just to get all the fonts down. This little lettering up here on the pilot, we got that down. Talked for ages about what color the skirts were supposed to be, whether they were black or blue. Settled on blue, but yeah, it's sometimes hard to tell with these things. Wow. But that's Northern Alberta Railways. A really unique.
What's that second CN Jeep there, Janek? Look at that with Flexicoil trucks and like half a fuel tank. Wow.
Yeah, they had some really lightweight units for branch line use.
And is the drop step on the nose of that Northern Alberta? It almost looks like it's a great see-through. Are they all like that? Have I never noticed that before?
So the drop steps are like that, as are the steps and the footboards. It's so that the snow wouldn't cake up on it and mess up your footing. It's a Canadian thing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, pretty
Now,
cool.
Janek, do I remember you telling me that they only had this paint scheme for about 10 years or so?
Yeah, about 10 years. Then they switched up to a scheme with the large logo on the side of the hood. They kept the same colors.
Okay.
And that didn't happen overnight. The units were all repainted individually. So you could see them mixed up for a time after that as well.
Are you going to be able to do that? Look at that wicked curve on the short handrail coming out of the cab.
Yeah, so that's a Canadian. You see that there on the CN unit behind it as well.
Yeah,
That's a Canadian style handrails. We definitely have those. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I have them too sometimes when I really manhandle a locomotive picking it up, but I've seen that before, but I didn't know there was a prototype. So, wow, it makes me feel better now. I've actually custom done that to a lot of things. Yeah.
If anyone out there knows why they were angled like this versus the standard, I'd love to know the answer. I'm sure there's a good reason for it. I just don't know
Janek,
what it is.
we've seen those on the Canadian National and the Central Vermont, and it seemed to be kind of a Canadian thing. So yeah, I've always wondered that.
Yeah. So that's Bob Palmer's photo over there on Flickr. Great photo to look at. I'll move on a little bit to something a little bit different here. Let's see if I got my cheat sheet over here so I can make sure I'm ready. Great Northern. Now, we've done Great Northern before, but what we haven't done is the Big Sky Blue, and this is black and white, so it's Big Sky gray and gray, but I couldn't find one in color in time for the video. I apologize for that. And we're actually not doing this unit either, so I apologize for that as well. This would be a really neat unit to do, being that it's a passenger unit. But the Big Sky Blue scheme came about in 1967 as the Great Northern was sort of trying to reintroduce itself, get itself a new image. Definitely a more modern image than the Pullman green and orange. That was definitely thought of as being a bit out of date by the 60s. So they came up with this Big Sky Blue and greenish gray and white. The Big Sky Blue is a reference to the state of Montana being known as the Big Sky State, and I can confirm that. I've been there a couple of times, and when you see it, then you're like, oh yeah, okay, I get it.
Now, the interesting thing, and Tony, we've talked about this before, but in one of Jim Boyd's books, they talk about the merger, which became the Burlington Northern. But since this was such a new paint scheme and they had spent so much money on the marketing efforts and the design and everything else, originally this was proposed as the Burlington Northern scheme, and that's why they had the Great Northern placard on the stanchion, so that when the time came, they could just switch the name of the railroad. But CB&Q and Spokane, Portland, and Seattle, and they said, no, we don't quite like that idea. So they kind of compromised, didn't they, Tony?
Yeah, both. There was this and that blue box U23C I showed was in that hockey stick. That Burlington adopts that 66. This is 67, and yeah, I've heard stories on both that both were kind of test beds because they'd been working on that merger most of the decade. So it wasn't like, oh wow, then they suddenly merged. Like they knew they were heading that way. But yeah, I have heard that. And again, yeah, the plates on the Great Northerns, I've heard that story that plates would come off and then they'd actually paint Burlington Northern on the side. But interesting stuff and neat classic 60s schemes where everybody's going to get that modern big image look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Which Great Northern Jeeps are you going to do, Janet? Because yeah, that's like a torpedo tube, and I see the steam generator on top. Are you doing passenger ones, or here we go?
So not in this run. We got 2 units with DBs and 2 without.
Oh, okay.
So you got a good mixture there. I'll try and zoom in here a little bit. My computer is not the fastest.
That is such a pretty scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame it didn't stick around for longer. I like it on passenger cars, especially the Empire Builder in Big Sky Blue. So Big Sky Blue GP9s, that is a first for Athearn, at least in Genesis. Now, we may have done them in Blue Box, although I'd be a little bit surprised if we did. I've never seen one. But definitely a first for Genesis.
And the nice thing about that scheme is, you know, even if you're modeling early Burlington Northern, they didn't get repainted as quickly as the other ones because they were basically in new paint.
Yep, just a new number and a small BN stencil on the cab, and you're good to go if you're a BN modeler. So here's another road name that we've got on offer. And again, I apologize, we are not offering these specific numbers. We are offering 1045 and 1049. So this one's close. But these are, you know, Seaboard Coastline, as you can see in the original paint scheme. But the interesting thing about it is that, I should say Seaboard, Seaboard Coastline. That's what I meant to say. This is what's known as the split image scheme, where they had the Seaboard Coastline lettering spelled out on the side of the hood. That wasn't there originally, and they just sort of cleaned off an area of the hood and just slapped the lettering on there, gave them a new number, and called it a day. So a very interesting sort of intern scheme for these. And again, one that we've never offered before. And I got one more picture here. Here's the 1041, and you can see, I was like, oh, cool, I'll do this as a prime for grime. Well, it's just dirt. And they just cleaned off, they just wiped off the dirt right there and then on the side of the cab, and they stuck a Seaboard Coastline lettering on it. And this one, as you can see, has the 4 stacks. We are offering one unit that does have the 4 stacks. That's an interesting feature as well. I'll flash them up real quick, the ones that we are offering.
And this is, I think, wasn't the green was Seaboard Airline scheme, and Atlantic Coastline had that black scheme that kind of got adopted as Seaboard's official scheme into the 70s. But yeah, early on, this was kind of their patching of sorts, where they kind of mended. I think that's a green airline heritage scheme relay.
Yeah, I meant to say Seaboard Airline is what these were originally, if that's not what I said.
And they look good. It works for it, you know. The stuff they, you know, a lot of times when they always try to do that, it's a real awkward looking. But those kind of work that you'd almost believe that that might have been how they were.
My favorite is the one where they put the stylized logo up on the cab. I think that looks sharp.
That really does, yeah.
It's too bad that didn't catch on. And I got one more road name that I wanted to go over today, and I'm sure that this will come as no surprise for anybody that I wanted to talk about these. The Southern Pacific Kodachrome. I get a lot of people asking me, why do you like Kodachrome so much? And I'm like, well, I like Southern Pacific, I like Santa Fe, and I didn't want to have to pick one or the other. So this is the perfect solution for me. I could just do both. Now, the 3792 is actually one of the numbers that we're offering in this run. And it's got some unique stuff going on, especially with the light package up here. They deleted the UDE light up there at the top, and then on the gyro light they gave it one red lens and one clear lens, whereas it had 2 clear, presumably, in the beginning. So that's something you don't see every day. Also got the rebuilt dynamic brake fan up here, just a fan like you'd see on the GP38 or something. They just stuck it on there. They were all interchangeable, so then SP didn't care. And then as you can see, this unit is marked for being home based in Roseville. It's got a 1987 date here on the cab. Just because it says Roseville, though, you know, these things did wander around. Didn't mean it stayed in Roseville its whole life, not by a long stretch. So, taken in 1989 at Oakdale, California. So there you go. That's close to Roseville, I guess.
You know, the thing about this scheme is I remember reading, I think I've talked about this before, seeing this in a model railroad publication and thinking, wow, this is really cool. And like Janek, liking SP and liking Santa Fe, this was just a great blend of railroads, proposed railroads. And boy, you know, the colors just look great together.
It's interesting. You know, I like it, but you do hear there's people that, again, are, I think if you're more Santa Fe or an SP fan, you can get, or, you know, you just don't get accustomed to it or something. But it was an interesting look.
It tends to be divisive for some people.
Yeah,
that's for sure. So again, I'll flash up real quick the ones that we're offering. Lots of minor details to differentiate these from each other. You've got the 3370, which is a TNO unit, so it doesn't have anything in the way of gyro lights, but it does have a beacon, so that sets that one apart. You got the 2873, which is sort of more of a standard look with the full light packages. So a real nice variety. You got some, you know, these weren't around too long, but still you've got some different eras, late 80s, early 90s. Things did change a lot during that time period. You know, even going from like 89 to 90, a lot changed. So first time Genesis SP Kodachrome GP9s. I am very excited on those.
And the SP Kodachromes hung around a long time. Seems like once that went south, Santa Fe wiped them out pretty quick, but SP didn't. I remember SP Kodachromes making it almost up to like UP days. So,
and I think somebody commented too that the 2873, that's the one up in Portola. So if you like SP Kodachrome locomotives, you can go see that one. It's a little bit faded, but hey, you know, SP wouldn't have it any other way, I'm sure. So.
Janek, do you know on the lights what the light packages, what's going to be working on the models? Because boy, some of those got a lot going on up there.
Yeah, all the light packages on those are going to work, with the exception of the red emergency lights on the 2873. Those are mounted up a little bit high off the hood, and we haven't figured out a way to get a light up in there yet. But the other lights will all be working on these.
And I think, Tony, you had sent me some pictures of a couple of these Kodachromes. Let me see if I can find those real quick.
I think I've got them here up as well. If I can.
Oh, there we go. This is 2873. And that's one that we're doing, isn't it, Janek?
Yep, that's the one up in Portola. So that one's famous. That's world famous.
And it looks like I don't see a date on this one, but judging on the equipment behind it, I'm going to say late 80s, early 90s, maybe.
Looks pretty clean. Yeah, so it's probably pretty fresh.
Yeah, I don't. I've got it says Pittsburgh, California, and the photographer was C. Laughlin, and that's from Kevin Udale's collection, but we don't have a date on it. But yeah, obviously it's got to be late 80s into early 90s. Interesting on the lights there, Janek, with it looks like everything's clear. I don't see red in that top of the one, you know, below the pile emergency light there. Are they all? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's the normal configuration.
That is
the one
how,
I was
okay,
talking
that's
about
how
is,
okay. Yeah.
That was a weird exception. Yeah.
And I assume you guys are doing the cool number boards, the red background with the white numbers are clear like that. That's odd that that's still clear at that point, because it seems like number boards about 1970 flipped from these clear where you could actually see the bulbs behind them. They went to those kind of plexiglass where it was white. There wasn't that clear anymore. So that's kind of interesting that that held what I would guess is its older style number boards. If I know what I'm talking about on that, which I may not, but I think.
Sounds about right, I think.
Here's another one that we're offering, 3370. Now, this one, Janek, this one, according to the picture, this was taken from the Randy Keller from the Kevin U. Daly collection. But a couple of things I noticed on this one. We have a rotating beacon now, but we don't have that light package that SP is so famous for.
That's that T&O unit that I was mentioning earlier. Those didn't come with light packages.
Interesting.
So
And that'd be what, Texas and New Orleans. It was a
Texas
SP
and New Orleans
subsidiary way back. Yeah, and boy, SP went nuts for those like amber beacons. They stuck them on like old Rio Grande SD9s. That those really seemed to get popular about 1990 with them.
Well, you know,
go ahead,
if
Janek.
the merger had gone through, those Santa Fe style beacons were going to be the norm. And then when SP got bought by the Rio Grande, you know, the beacons were the standard there as well. So that's why they started showing up everywhere.
What's a red dot above the number and below the cab windows on the side?
Yeah, so that, and SP guys, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe refers to the fact that this thing is equipped with spark arresters internally. Since it is non-turbocharged, it needed to have those to run in certain areas so that it wouldn't start a fire. The sparks coming out the exhaust.
Very cool. That's neat to know.
So, Janek, real briefly, this is a good example of showing how you have to. They're all SP, they're all Kodachrome, but they're not all the same, and that's a hallmark of Genesis. They're individual by road number, not just road name.
Right, and when talking about SP in the 80s and 90s, it's just a potpourri of different details that they had at that point. Some of them had their lights, some of them didn't. Horns and bells swapped around, fans swapped around. So we definitely do recreate all those in Genesis.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and you know the funny thing is, you know, people wonder how we come across these road names for locomotives, and there's a couple of different ways that we do it. We have the Athearn product suggestion email that goes right to our developers. They see road names that you request. If we get enough requests for certain road names, we will produce them. And once a year, we talk about what we're going to release. And I distinctly remember this meeting because both the Kodachromes and the Big Sky Blue Great Northerns were brought up, and Janek and I, of course, were very enthusiastic about these two road names. So at this point, I'm looking at the comments, and Janek and Tony, feel free to talk about the GP9. If you guys out there that are watching have a question for any of us on the GP9s, now's your chance to ask that. I'll put that on the screen, and one of us will answer it. But go ahead, Janek, tell us a little bit more, maybe a little bit of background on the research phase on these.
Well, like you said, it starts with the planning meetings where we take a look at what's coming up in the year, and we basically decide what road names we're going to produce. And a lot of different things are going into that. You know, one of the big ones for me is, do we have enough information? If we don't have photos or books or a reliable source for these things, it's going to be a real difficult project versus something like SP Kodachrome GP9s, where we were well equipped to produce that project with, team members being experienced with Southern Pacific, all the photos and books that have been published about those. And, we think about the requests that we're getting too. Maybe 1 or 2 requests for a road name. Yeah, we might consider it. But if we're getting 10, 20, 30 requests for these things, that's how it was with the Northern Alberta. I swear we had about 15, and that doesn't sound like much. But out of the people who contact us, that's a pretty big percentage of people that want something.
Here's one from Daylight Dave, and Janek, I'll let you field this one. He wants to know, hey, does the yellow beacon light up?
Yes, it does. If you buy the sound version, it will have the flashing effect. And if you buy the non-sound version, you will it'll just be on solid. You can install your own decoder, program it to flash, should you so desire.
We're also, I see some requests coming up here. I'll put Frederick up here on the screen. He's seconding the Grand Trunk blue and orange Jeep9s are in demand, at least here in Michigan. I could see that, but we've seen some requests for GT&W, haven't we, Janek?
Yeah, GT seems to be one of those roads that you don't think about, but it has a large following from what I've seen. We recently, I forget what they were. They were SD40s or SD40-2s. We did some recently, and they just killed it. Everybody loved them. And then I think we did GT black and orange GP9s somewhat recently, and those did well. But we got a lot of people saying, "Oh well, now you need to do the blue and orange." So I wouldn't be surprised if those were coming soon.
Tony, did you ever get a chance to rail fan any of the Grand Trunk Western?
Never got up there. No, I never did. That and like Ann Arbor, a couple of those roads. I grew up in Central Illinois, so we did. Dad would get up. We get trips like Chicago and things, but no, I never really got to see some of those kind of what I would call more over like on the auto side, DT&I, Ann Arbor, Grand Trunk. That no, but they are interesting roads, all of them.
Yeah, they really are. Janek, when it comes time, when the decision's made on doing a railroad, in this case, we'll use the SP Jeep9s as an example. Let the audience know what does it take in the research phase, and how long does it take to do that research?
The part that takes the longest is the first part, which is finding all of the materials. Books, photographs, painting diagrams, forum posts, maybe even talking to actual former engineers or people who know these things, got to work on them in person. Just finding all of that information, putting it together and saying, okay, what can we do? Because, SP Kodachrome GP9s, there's only so many of them out there. So we got to make sure that we're picking units that have details that our tooling is good for. If Southern Pacific, say they did something weird and replaced one of these set of fans on 3370 with a single fan, but they kept the 2 fans in the back, that would be something that we probably wouldn't consider doing, since that's not what our tooling is set up to do. So it's as much about thinking about what we can do as what we can't do. Trying to pick the best road numbers, the best versions that we can. It can take 2, 3, 4 days just in the beginning before we even start specifying these things out.
Tony, I guess, with you, not just with, Diesel Era, but even when you're doing reviews on the many models that come in, to me anyways, and maybe to you too, it seems dizzying on how many different variations there can be on, say, a GP9, especially on a locomotive like this that has endured for decades and seen many previous owners. So you probably go through a lot of what Janek and the team go through as well, don't you, Tony?
And it's a lot of it's trying, again, a lot of it is you can set out and say, here's what I want to cover. Like the diesel era that I'm finishing up right now, I had a group of rail fans that went up and did the LS&I, the U30C and C30-7s, those BN units that are still running. They shot those, and I thought, well, I'll cover BN's U30Cs. And then as I start looking at them, I see, well, they bought like 2 groups in 72, but then they were 5,300 numbers. But then they started making them radio control, and the master unit and slave units got 58 and 5,900 numbers. But then they started buying more U30Cs, but they were a later phase, but they dropped them in the open holes for when they moved things. And it's like, so yeah, I totally can sympathize with Janek. If this is easy, we're just going to do this, this, and this. And then you find out, well, they renumbered them. And then they bought later phase ones that they dropped down into those numbers. And then they changed this when they made them radio control. It's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's all fun though. It's fun, and it's neat when you start discovering and putting those puzzle pieces together. Oh, that's why that one looks like that. It's like, yeah, that was not. It came like 3 or 4 years later, but got in that numbering sequence. It's like, oh wow, yeah.
Tony, when I was working on GP9-2s for Delaware and Hudson, they had a group of 20 units, and I kid you not, I was doing a spreadsheet about the paint schemes that those things wore. Some of those things wore 9 different paint schemes over like a 25-year span, which is just crazy when you think about it.
Right. Yeah. No, and it's all fun. That's part of that minutia that attracts us, to trains, whether they're miniatures or the real deal. But yeah, again, whether you're trying to make a model or I'm trying to do a presentation of them, it's like, this is bonkers, because I basically can find almost everything of these, but I can't. I'm trying to sort through them, and not that one, but oh, look at that one. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
There's a reason why, if you look at our PDFs and our information, when you go to our Athearn website, you'll see the development team, they put the era next to the models, and you'll see many times, you'll see one road, but you'll see different eras. And that's because, we've all seen it. We've seen a locomotive that is for the same railroad, and within a month or two, the antenna changes, or the bell changes, or subtle changes like that. And by putting that era in there, that really helps define the time and substantiate the research that the guys have done.
These SPs are a great example here. This T and NO, it's like, well, why has this one got the odd light package? Well, because yes, it's SP, but technically it's not. It was Texas and New Orleans. And a Jeep 9 could have been delivered by, 1956 to the late 50s. So the thing is 30 years old by the time it's SP Kodachrome. When you start putting all those factors and variables into it, it's, yeah.
There's nothing more frustrating than going out to buy a car and realizing it's the wrong era for what you're trying to do after the fact. When we put those eras on there, it's not only about what you should buy for your era, but also what you shouldn't buy for your era. There's plenty of people that don't care about that, but there's plenty of people that do. So that information is there for your benefit.
Luckily, I'm more of a collector. I don't mind, but I was just over at my folks in Illinois for Easter. I see this set of Athearn Genesis boxcars sitting out, and I said, Dad, what do you do with these? Oh, I'm getting rid of them. Why? What's wrong with them? Well, they're not my era, because I've moved back now into the 1960s. These all have like 1970s or the COT stencils or the wheel dot thing. It's like, oh. So yeah, eBay they go, because they don't fit his era anymore. But that's part of the hobby,
It is, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm looking through the comments. I don't see any specific questions on the GP9. Now, one thing I want to remind you, I'm seeing some great suggestions out there. And I want you guys to know we do see those, but the best place for you to put those comments is directly in front of our development team. And you can do that by going to athearn.com, going to the Contact Us page, and scroll down to the bottom of the page. You'll see an address. It's Athearn Product Suggestions at athearn.com. And like I said before, put your comments, your suggestions, what you'd like to see in the future in there. That goes directly to our development staff, and they won't answer you, so don't feel like we're slighting you. We do see those, but we're collating all of that information. So when those meetings come up and we're ready to run the next set of GP9s, if we get your suggestion and some others to go along with it, there's a possibility that we might make your favorite road name next. So thank you for putting those suggestions out there, but we definitely want to see those on the email. And I know Janek and John said it in the past as well. It really does come in handy sometimes when there's so many different choices to produce. All right, well, we're going to move on to the next item, and a little bit bigger prototype. We're talking the SD40T-2s. Now, you guys probably got to see these. I grew up on the East Coast up by Canada, in the New England area, and the biggest thing I saw was a GP40-2. So, Janek, tell me a little bit about the SD40T-2s.
I was probably about 5 or 6 at the time when my grandma took me over to San Luis Obispo, because I grew up in Pismo Beach. So that's right along the SP coastline. San Luis Obispo was the biggest station nearby. She took me over there, and I remember seeing these just filthy engines sitting there. I couldn't tell if they were black or gray. I couldn't tell what color, if it was Rio Grande or SP. And they all had these giant holes in the back, and I was like, well, "What's that for? Why isn't there anything in there?"
Yeah,
said 6-year-old me. But later on, I learned about the tunnel motors. It was so what it was, for just to give you the quick, the units generally with the radiator fans up on top, they would pull the air in from the top. Now, when you're going through a tunnel and it's hot and you've got, 5 or 6 motors belching hot exhaust fumes in that tunnel, you're pulling in hot air, which in turn is making the engine run hotter. And then it's just sort of a domino effect that they would start to overheat and get stranded even inside the tunnel at times, because they were pulling the hot air in from the top. So the designers at E&D said, well, what if we pulled in the air from the bottom of the tunnel where it's cooler? So they moved the air intakes down to the walkway, and so that's the tunnel motor. The air gets pulled in down by the walkway, as opposed to the top of the engine. Other than that, it's an SD40-2. I mean, that's the only difference. It's on a longer body, but just an SD40-2 with a different cooling system.
Tony, do you have any background on that specific locomotive?
I remember seeing them out in Colorado on the Rio Grande, and yeah, just as Janek said, it's like, hey, they're dummies, because look, you can see through the back and there's nothing above the truck. There's no gear tower or anything. So wow, they're non-powered. But yeah, they were awesome to see. I would have seen them in the mid 70s when they were new, like on the Moffett or Tennessee Pass out there. But they were definitely very cool units. And yeah, what they did, SD40-2s that way, and then SD45s also got the T style with the low air intakes. And SP Cotton Belt and Rio Grande were the only buyers. Later you see KCS, Union Pacific, but at least initially as new, they're limited to basically the SP family in Rio Grande.
Now this month we're doing a really a neat set of roads. Plus we're doing some legendary liveries in there too, using a little bit of modeler's license of what could have been. Janek, I guess it's safe to say that SD40T-2, that's one of our perennials, I guess you could say. It's always a good seller. People really enjoy these models.
Yeah, that's originally a blue box model, and one of the first models, along with, I think, the Trainmaster, that started to have some semblance of a road-specific detail. Because you had different, I think they did different versions, where like a Rio Grande version and an SP version, Tony. I'm not.
The Trainmaster. Yeah, the Trainmaster comes out in 79 or 80, and it got an SP light package and kind of a standard. And then the tunnel motor is with the first round of correct width hoods with the SD40-2. And they did the SP light package, but then the Rio Grande's got a regular nose. It didn't get the Rio Grande light. So again, that would be the only other prototype So the SP guys got a deal, but us Rio Grande folks still had to shave the nose down and put the Details Wester Associates light in. So I don't know why we got hit on that one, but it's been since rectified. And yeah, that tunnel motor, when you think of all you guys have done to it over the years, if you really want to go find yourself an old blue box that still has the lugs on the side where the plastic shell snapped onto the frame and the back was solid. I mean, the stuff that's been done to that tunnel motor, to say, yeah, that's just the old blue box. It's like, well, maybe kind of some part of it, but not really.
Well, especially with the latest run where we turn the rear truck around to give a better see-through effect. That's a pretty big improvement as far as I'm concerned.
Got an interesting comment from Daylight Dave. I'm going to throw it up on the screen. As he was an engineer.
That's neat.
He says, as a retired Union Pacific engineer working, you would be shocked as to how powerful those fans in Notch 8 are. They could suck you in when you went walking by them.
I never thought of that. Yeah, but that would be
I would think.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Wow.
Oh, wow. So now we've offered these before, but like I was saying earlier, we've offered some really interesting road names and paint schemes, as well as the legendary liveries. Tony, did you say you had some prototype pictures of some of the ones that we're offering?
I sure do. I think I have Rio Grande SP and of course Rio Grande late, because isn't Janek basic? And I always think of these as they ran that trash train out in Utah. Remember it? Where there were like 3 or 4 of these tunnel motors that towards the end seemed to, that's kind of where they lived out their days. But if I have my pictures here correct, these should all be that late era. As you can see, the nose lights capped over, class lights are capped over, ditch lights on it, which of course it never had originally. This is 5401, so it's a fairly later number. Here's it, and this is out on the SP. 5401 again, you can see it's all kind of patched up. This is an interesting, I thought this, I don't have this is all from Kevin Udaley's collection, but looking at this, you can see the new SP power back here, GEs they would have just bought. There's a UP repainted tunnel motor, but check out the Rio Grande there's the little Rio Grande, that would have been its as delivered horns, but then there's another set of horns going in back here, and it looks like the one light's busted out, so maybe it was in the process of getting some of that done, but still in pretty good shape paint-wise, that it still looks pretty good.
Huh. That's an interesting one, yeah.
And I think this is the one I'm running in Model Railroad News with the announcement, and I think this is one of the numbers you're doing. And again, there's that amber beacon that got put on a lot of the SP Rio Grande Power in that, what was it, October of '88 is when Phil Anschutz, as the Rio Grande Industries, takes over the SP, and they kind of become one until the UP days. But I think this is that later look with the ditch lights. And then, as I remember, Rio Grande didn't originally highlight the edges of the pilots, but that was something that was done later. Both SP and Rio Grande Power, you'll see that as something added to them later. And again, the different horns set back here from that original cluster of Rio Grandes. This is out in Kansas. Remember, Rio Grande got rights over the Mopac line, the Colorado Eagle line out of Pueblo into Kansas City as part of the merger stuff with Mopac, and that carried through that line. I think it's basically all gone now, but for a while it's the reason Rio Grande bought all the Conrail Jeep 40s to increase their motive power roster to be able to service that run from Kansas City down. And it kept Tennessee Pass very active too for a while. And this is later. You can see the UP unit there, and it's got ditch lights, but again, it looks, I don't see where the horns went on it unless they're hidden over here on the side. And we'll have to look when you bring up the order numbers, because all of these, Rio Grande has like 4 orders, and there was the one group with the box light, which you guys have done that. All of them got this, and I guess at some point when they went to EMD and said, we want more tunnel motors, and they said, look, the guy's tired of putting the Detail Associates lights in the nose. You're not getting them. So they just got a box light. Like, we'll stick it on the outside, but no more of that. And then I think you're doing these wonderful snoot nose tunnel
like
motors
that.
are coming in. Look what it's coupled up to, that one experimental daylight SD40R.
Very cool. Very cool.
And I think it's either this, no, it's this shot. I want to remember to say that on for looking at prototype things. This is neat. Early stack days, a rear grand Jeep 40 in there, the GE, an SD40, and then this. And boy, SP, look at all this stuff. The neat bell on the bracket there, the horn setup, the air conditioner. You got the plate here for the antenna, which I almost would wonder, was that a Santa Fe era thing? Because that makes me think Santa Fe, the plate antenna, but maybe SP did that too. And it's interesting here, look at the brake wheel is yellow, and there's a brake wheel red. And this is the one shot. This is March of '86. This is the same train and both sides. So boy, if you can do this for Janek and get a picture of the back and get a picture of the roof, you'll be gold in his book. But yeah, and look at that. Fuel tank's even got some reflection to it and double fillers on it, which I kind of forgotten they had those. Lights are all still pretty much intact. And man, those snoot noses are just, those are awesome. And I was trying to figure out what this car is back here. You can see these kind of typical FMC-ish, kind of those, I think they did a lot of lumber service stuff. And I was trying to decide what that big honking car is back there. Look at that thing. And you can see it in that shot a little bit too. It's not a high cube or an auto rack. I don't know what that is. But
that's a weird one.
Yeah. And these were all late enough. They had anti-climber. I think some of the original Rio Grandes have the more standard pilot. But yeah, those were shots.
You got the L window in that last one, Tony. That was something that was really interesting. That they kind of EMD was experimenting with their -2 cabs with.
It seems like SP got that on a number of things. I think there might even be some GE boats that got that. And then, of course, they figure out, well, once we break a window, we got to replace 2 windows instead of 1. Same as how the U25s had that big picture window windshield, and then they split it for the late production that suddenly hit somebody as, wow, one bug hits the windshield and breaks it, and we got to replace this giant windshield.
Well, I
was wondering that too, Jonathan Miner. Yeah, I was thinking Boeing car, but it didn't. Yeah, one of those skyboxes.
That would make sense.
But yeah, it looked kind of odd. I don't know.
Now, one of the things I want to tell everybody too is everything that we're talking about, the GP9s, the SD40T-2s, you have till next Friday. You've only got a little bit of time. If you haven't seen these yet, and these are HO models that you want to add to your collection, what you need to do is contact your dealer. Now, if you've got a dealer in your hometown or close by, you can stop in and see them. Or if you've got one of the many online retailers, there's a lot of great ones out there that will take the pre-orders for you. You can go ahead and pre-order these, but you have until Friday the 29th, which is about a week away now. So if you see something here that's really cool, Janek and I can attest, even as employees, if you don't pre-order, your chances are kind of slim sometimes, isn't it, Janek?
Depending on what it is. Yeah, some of the stuff goes fast.
I missed on those, and I don't know how I did. The legendary liveries, the FP45s, I did not have them reserved, and I mean, I went chasing everywhere. They're in the latest HO collector, the Western Pacific Zephyr scheme, the SPSF, the BNSF Heritage 2, and man, I went digging. I think I ended up about 3 different hobby shops to track down a set of those to feature them in the magazine. But boy, they're fantastic looking pieces. And now you say I got a week, so let me see, where has somebody got because I know there's a Black Widow tunnel motor in this group. That's a guarantee. Right. But yeah, what's coming in this group?
We've got, let me see if I can get a picture of it for everybody. It's a part of our legendary liveries. And Janek, here's a good opportunity for you to kind of say, we're not just doing this willy-nilly. We're doing this based on sometimes our research comes through and we find some stuff. Can you talk a little bit, Janek, about legendary liveries briefly?
I can, but I wanted to share one real quick.
Okay.
I've got some tunnel motors close to my current home. And
all right.
So I want to show those off real quick.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so these are if anyone's ridden Amtrak from north from Bakersfield on the San Joaquins, they've gone right by these things. These are just outside of Hanford. I know this one is a former SP unit because of the light package on the back. This one might be Rio Grande, but I'm not sure because it's got the smaller plow, I think. But these things are pretty neat. So I got to see those recently.
Wow.
Maybe the next run we can do those.
There's still a few of them kicking around. I think out on, is it Kyle in eastern Colorado, western Kansas? I see pictures of some of those tunnel motors and other odd things. So there's still a few.
I think I've got
Yeah,
a
I
picture.
apologize, guys. The neighbors are running around outside. So if you guys hear anything in the back, I apologize for that. But I can talk a little bit about legendary liveries. That's sure. Yeah. So legendary liveries is any paint scheme that didn't actually exist in real life, but legendary liveries, meaning a famous and well-known paint scheme for locomotives that we have just applied to something else. Now, Southern Pacific and Black Widow, that was their main paint scheme up until 1958, I want to say, when they switched to the red and gray, starting with a couple of F units. But the Black Widow was much, much loved. It looked sharp on a set of F units. It looked great on GP9s, SD9s as well. But by the time they switched to red and gray, a lot of people were like, they kind of missed the sort of the more, I'm not going to say more colorful, but more intricate, more detailed paint schemes with the orange and silver stripes. So we thought Black Widow would look really great on one of these things, especially with the snoot nose.
Yeah,
the long nose there with the wings on it. We just thought it looked great. So we decided to run with it.
Yeah, that's a sharp look. And I've seen guys do that. I've seen when you announce this, it's like, I've seen some custom where somebody took a blue box and made that. So it's been done before. That's cool.
I've seen people do this as well. And I think I don't quote me on this, guys, but I think they picked a number that had been wrecked and retired or something like that, so you can run this and you won't run the risk of duplicating one of your red and gray possibilities. So
that's neat.
There's sort of a story behind it, at least a made-up one. But one more thing too, I wanted to say, we've detailed this up as a Southern Pacific locomotive as it would have been detailed. We don't just slap the Black Widow paint scheme on there and call it a day. We have all the SP details on there. It just adds that little bit of plausibility to it, which for me is what makes it a lot more interesting. We could put any paint scheme on any locomotive, but the ones that sort of make sense, or at least have a little bit of thought behind them, those are the ones that really interest me.
Yeah, I agree, and I love when you guys do. And I mentioned that in HO Collector on like the Western Pacifics, you numbered them in like the 700s right after the FP7s. So it's like, well, if they would have, boom, they would fit right here in the numbering system. And that kind of thing, when you realize it, it's a very cool, like, well, that really adds something to kind of the fantasy element. It's like, it is, but think about it. We've gone down this whole alternative universe path, and here's what it could have, might have been. And the detail too. Yeah, that whole group, the SPSF, FP45, the BNSF, all of them were detailed out and looked like they would fit in those eras. Like the Western Pacific was very much what you'd expect from the late 60s. There's not a lot of stuff up on the roof, whereas the other two were loaded with that 80s, 90s kind of detail stuff. So those were spectacular.
Well, thanks for noticing. Yeah.
So here's for our folks out there watching the show, if you have any questions on the SD40T-2s, now is your chance to ask. And the great thing is if you've got a question about the Athearn HO models, we definitely got an answer for you. If you got a question about the actual prototype, we've probably got an answer for you there too, because Tony, you spend a lot of time with Diesel Air. There's a lot of information that you're going to pour over on a so many daily bases probably of information that you got to go over.
Oh, it's the same with model railroad news too. You know, that's well, and now even like HO Collector, I did the blue box SD9s recently, and I did a couple page spread basically explaining the different, here's SD9, like what is the Athearn blue box SD9 compared to EMDs, and I showed the different phase productions of SD9s, because to me that's always kind of part of it. You look at the model and like, well, what is it correct for, and like which version or production phase is that, all goes into spotting and enjoying a model. So yeah, all of that. There's no model I pick up that I don't think, well, is this this is a phase 2, and with that on it, it could be this railroad, that railroad. Like when I did the U-boats for Railroad Model Craftsman, I say, well, with the nose lights, that means it can't be this, and it's got this feature, so the blue box shell would have worked for that, and the phases, and because I think I go through the road names saying like, well, okay, it might be right for this SP, but the nose light wouldn't work, but it's close, because it's kind of fun to look at some of those vintage models and go, yeah, maybe, no, wouldn't have that on it though. But yeah, back when we didn't know any better and it was fine, or you just took a file to it and some putty, and there it's good now.
I got a question here coming in from Brad. This one's for you, Tony. Brad's asking, what is that on the shelf behind you, Tony? It looks like a Big Mac.
Looks like a Big Mac.
I don't think he's talking about a food chain.
The locomotive.
I think it's that locomotive, that bright red locomotive from my neck of the woods.
This showed up today, and I've got a web page up on modelrailroadnews.com that you can go take a look at. This is the new SD70M-2 run. That's coming out in late May. I think it's
it's going to be about depending on delays. It's going to be probably middle of May or so.
But man, isn't that pretty? They had 2 of these. They were originally Florida East Coast, and then First Union Rail was like the leaser or whatever. They came back from Florida East Coast and became 431, 432 on Vermont. And I know, Janek, Jim is Boston and Maine, these New England roads that half the time he starts talking about them, and I'm like, whoa, time out. Let me go Google this. I don't even know what railroad this is. That's not a real railroad. But yeah, it's when he said, okay, I've got a couple of these. You can have one to put in Model Railroad News. I did pick the Vermont because it's like, well, it is really cool. And boy,
it's a sharp paint scheme. It's all business.
Nice looking. Yeah, it is sharp. Oh, yeah, there it is.
There it is. Yeah, it's these will be in. Now we are, the last year we've had some shipping delays. So we always try to quantify that by saying, there might be some shipping delays yet. But we're hoping to have these in about beginning to the middle of May. So if you pre-order these, you're probably going to get a phone call pretty soon. If you did not pre-order one of these, you probably want to talk to a dealer soon and get those in there. In fact, it looks like, Tony, you're doing a cool write-up here. I'm going to share that real quick.
I just put this out today because it was so neat when it came in. I started shooting pictures. And again, this is going to be in our July edition that I'm starting to lay out on now. Really like this, that the whole shell came out, no wiring in between it, the dual sugar cube speakers. I have not started test running it yet, but that's on my agenda for this weekend. But man, even the back, look at the ditch lights on the back of it and everything. But this is modelrailroadnews.com. You can go to, and I have it. It'll be on our main page. There's SD70M. So boom, you can click on it and get a sneak preview of it. And what a slick that, red and white with the black and the silver trucks.
Yeah.
That'd be a good paint scheme for a Lincoln. Yeah, I would buy that on a car. But yeah, that's nice looking. But it is really a well done model. Yeah.
No, we're really excited about these. Now, the other thing too, I wanted to show, we've started showing some of these on our social media platforms over the last week. Here's the Norfolk Southern version. Now, this one's got the GPS dome on the cab. If you buy the Norfolk Southern version, you have an option. And Janek, I think this was your idea, if I remember right. If you're modeling modern PTC era, we actually have another top of the cab that includes the PTC array. So you can have GPS dome or PTC with the Norfolk Southern.
I don't know whose idea that was, but I will definitely take credit for it.
There we go.
That's a great idea, though, because this thing, if you're modeling 2018, this is not much use to you. You can't lead a train with it if it doesn't have PTC. So that's a great idea. I'm glad we're doing that.
I think what the NS was the second biggest buyer of these. Like Canadian, there's like 331 built, 2005 to like maybe 2010, and CN has the most. NS had the next most or next biggest group, and then you got the little ones like this. And I think the NS are all retired now, just in the last couple years. So yeah, that being able to put the dome on it basically gives you from early to late.
Well, we've got another new item to show you, but I'm going to leave you guys hanging until the end. We've got something new that I want to share with you all starting tonight. And one of the great thing about social media is not only do I get to see what guys are working on when I get to go to a show, but on a weekly, daily, sometimes basis, I get to see what everybody's working on. And I got some great pictures that were shared on our Facebook and Instagram this past week. And I just wanted to take a moment and give a shout out to these amazing models. Let's go ahead and share my screen here. And sometimes I think, Janek, you can probably understand when we see this, we get a little jealous because it's like, man, I wish I had some time to do some stuff like this.
It's inspiration for sure. Yeah.
Now, this came through Instagram and I hopefully am pronouncing the name right, Shihon Park. This was like I said, through Instagram, and he modernized this GP40-2 to about, I think he said 2018 standards. But just look at the work he did. If you look closely here, I want to highlight this: the doors in primer, based on pictures he found of the prototype. And now he started with a Genesis model and basically updated it. Real subtle weathering if you look very carefully. Just a nice job on the...
Nicely done, yeah.
Yeah, nice. I think he's got a cool shot. No, that's sorry. Go back to this. But, these are the things that I enjoy, and Janek, I know you do as well, because we try to offer models that are as, specific to the prototype as possible, but that still leaves modelers some room to do things like this, modernize them. Maybe we came out with a locomotive, but it's for a specific era, and you can update it for your railroad. And this is what makes model railroading fun. It really does.
Yeah, well, let's say you're a BN guy. You just pick up those big sky blue GP9s, and you could just add a few decals, and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Now, the next one I've got, and I'm very jealous of this weathering. I wish I could do weathering like this. This came in Tim's Trains. He does a lot of freight car weathering and such, but check this out. I'm going to zoom in on this. I'm jealous. I wish I could do weathering like this.
Boy, the rust is so nicely done, and look at how he's kind of distressed the Sioux Line name on the side and the grain of wheat. That is nicely done.
It is. It really is.
I love how the rust stops partway down, where the curvature of the car, changes how it forms. That's a nice little detail.
That's really, really accurate. We just shot some Mopac hoppers over in Atchison, Kansas a week or two ago, and that's exactly what I noticed to them. Is they basically have this dead band of rust, but then about halfway down they come back to where it looks okay. I guess it's how the water and stuff runs off them in the rain. But yeah, that's really well done.
Look at how he's done the crusty rust, if you will. Mm-hmm. It's very subtle. But yeah, I mean, a really good eye of seeing how weathering, happens. You can see where the water hasn't really crept in, and like Janek and Tony were pointing out, that curvature. Once you get past that curvature, the rain just kind of, drops off from that. And so, really, a great eye for detail, a great eye for weathering. Beautiful. Tim, I salute you with your weathering efforts. Very nicely done.
That's nicely done, yeah.
And last but not least, check This
I
is
remember seeing this. Yeah,
I saw that one. Yeah, I was like, dang, that is
and
nice.
Janek, did you think the same thing when I first saw this? I'm like, is that real? It's one of those you kind of are leaning in at your computer, like, wait a minute. I mean, look at the tires and everything. I mean, that's one of the best things you can say on a model is that double take of, oh, I thought that was real.
Well, the first picture I saw was this one here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in awe because at first I had to do a double take because it looks like, he's standing on some skids or something to get a picture of this tractor trailer. And I mean, his fence detail alone, I mean, just his perspective,
Yeah.
really nicely done. Now, if I forget, I apologize. I got these pictures in late today. I believe this was from Tim's Trains. And if I get that wrong, I apologize. I didn't have a chance to get the credits up there. But we did share these on our Facebook page this past week, and we were just in awe. I mean, just look at the weathering on this, too. Another great example of weathering.
You don't see people weathering trailers too much. A lot of locomotives, quite a few freight cars, but trailers and containers don't see them too often, but it makes a huge difference.
That's amazing.
Now
Look at the rust. Look at the rust
squarely
on the
from
gear.
1968 to 77. There you've got your ACI panel.
Nice.
But
Is this
really
from that-
nicely done.
I think I was trying to decide, is this from that recent, there was a recent run, because I picked them up at Midwest Model Railroad here in Kansas City and got on the phone to my dad, because when he sees it, he's going to say, oh, when did that come out? I got to have one of those. That Genesis flat car with the Rock Island trailer, and then I bought, it's a ready-to-roll Rock Island trailer of a different number, so you could have two on the flat car. And literally was on the phone saying, okay, do you want me to get one of those? He's like, oh, yeah, I want one of those. So picked all that up. But I think that's from that recent run of, it's a ready-to-roll line Frohoff trailer, I think, maybe.
I believe so, yes.
And boy, they are sharp, yeah.
Nicely done. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about this job is seeing what everybody's working on, whether I'm at a show or just looking at our social media. Just the amount of detail you guys put on your stuff, and when it's a little different when you're modeling by yourself, and especially the last 2 years, I think all of us have seen that. We've been just kind of working on our own stuff in our own shops. Now we're starting to see shows open up and stuff, and it's great to see. You get a lot of ideas in your own personal modeling by comparing notes and seeing what everybody else is up to. Well, guys, like I said, I do have something new to show you guys, but while I get ready for that, here's your chance to ask some questions about the Genesis GP9s, the Athearn HO SD40T-2s. If you've got any questions about any of the fine magazines that Tony works on, or if you've got maybe a question about Athearn development, here's your chance. Go ahead and ask those questions, and we'll be more than happy to put those on the screen and answer them for you. Janek, while I'm waiting for some questions, out of all of those GP9s, I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Which one are you going to get? I
put in a pre-order for only one of the Kodachrome ones. I'm sure that people are wondering why I didn't get all four.
I'm surprised by that. Yeah, I am actually. Tony, how about you?
I probably would have never bought it, but the collector in me, that Northern Alberta with the odd handrails and everything now, I'm intrigued with that, because anything kind of odd, different, whatever. Yeah, so that one I would be curious to see it in the flesh. And obviously on the tunnel motors, the Black Widows. In fact, I already have it.
Yeah. No, that's that's. I think for me, since I am from New England, but I do have a huge love for the CB&Q and of course Burlington Northern. So I'm just going to have to get the Big Sky Blue Great Northerns. That's such a cool paint scheme, such a cool railroad, and I can justify it because remember, Janek, I think it's been about 4-5 years now. We did the former CB&Q Chinese red GP9s lettered for BN, so I can justify running them with those.
That'd be a neat pair if you could mix those up.
Here's one, Janek, for you. It's from Idaho Railfan. He's wanting to know, will the Rio Grande SD40T-2 have ditch lights and other bits of their later lights packages?
That's a good question. I don't have the announcement in front of me. I would definitely refer to that as your guide. I know we're doing the later version of Rio Grande, which did have the ditch lights. I think the light package would have been removed at that point in time. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm trying to
If that
remember.
doesn't,
If I have it, yeah.
go check out the announcement. Yeah.
Let me see here.
While Janek's looking for that, I'm going to see if I can fire something up for you guys.
Hopefully something Boston and Maine, right?
Yeah, I think we'll change it up tonight. In fact, I thought I saw a question out there.
Yeah, it says the tall front ditch lights.
Tall front ditch lights and a beacon. And the original gyro lights as well. So these are Christmas tree lights, I would say. Looks like they have all the lights.
Yeah, it's interesting. And
That's cool.
we saw pictures of that tonight where some of the nose lights weren't capped and the class lights were still there. So, yeah, very much.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think we talked about these, but yeah, you got the Union Pacific repaints. And there's the Kodachromes we talked about. And then, yeah, there is SP Speed Letter repaints and then 2 numbers for the Black Widow. Oh, and then I forgot these cool potash ones. And these, I think, have a real short life, don't they, Janet? I've seen pictures. Literally, that 2012 are the only pictures I can find online. Like,
they can't find anything else.
Yeah. But that's an interesting,
Someone was asking real quick in the comments if the SD70M-2s have flashing ditch lights. I know the Norfolk Southerns do. I don't think the other roads do because they don't flash in real life. But basically, we'll make them flash if they flash in real life and not if they don't.
I think they both work front and back. I haven't put it on the track yet to see.
Front and back. Yeah.
But yeah.
We'll run some rail cam, I guess, here while we're.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll try that. So, yeah, there's the GP9 that we were talking about earlier. There's something else in there. I think we're going to make room in this yard, this small yard. And we'll see if the guys can guess what it is. Tony, when you go to Spring Creek tomorrow, what time are you leaving?
I got to get up and have my coffee, and the dog and I always visit a little bit, before we get rolling. So it's about about 4 hours to get up there. And I want to get up there in time for lunch and then to get to walk around, take pictures. So probably, about 8, 9 o'clock, something like that. We'll get going and get up there in time to get to see. It's both HO and N. And I forget now, they had like 100 plus in-scale modules last year for the Fremo put together. So yeah, I'm eager to see it all. And I know I've talked to a number of people this week that have said, hey, you're coming up there and I'm going to be there and bring, so it's a big event. There's people that come from all around for that. And that's up in Deschler, Nebraska, at Spring Creek there at the Thayer County deal in beautiful Deschler, a town of 750 that will double the population probably tomorrow with all the train guys descending on town.
Now, Tony, how long have they been doing that Fremo operation?
This will be the 4th one. I think 1 year got skipped, maybe 20 because of COVID, but they did have it every other summer they do an event up there that's a fantastic show that happens about, and I think you've been up at that one before, that they have like in July. This year is an off year because they had one last year, but this Fremo event has been annual except for the one pandemic postponed one. So this is their fourth year of doing that. And it's a fun event. I mean, yeah, they get guys from all over the place that bring their modules.
As I'm moving things around, now the GP9 that you guys saw earlier, that was from, let's see, Janek, we announced those in December of 2020, wasn't it, for the January pre-orders? And those sold out pretty quick, didn't they?
That was a really great group of road names. It always is with the GP9s. It's always something new and different for those.
Yeah, let's see if we can back this guy up. And now those box cars that you're seeing, those aren't in stock yet, but they will be in dealer shelves probably the end of May, beginning of June. These are the modernized 40-footers in the ready-to-roll line. And let's see, we can kind of see we've got an L&N there. We've got the Penn Central, one of my favorites. Looks like the third one's a GM&O, doesn't it, Tony?
Oh yeah. Well, I think I'm sure I've got a couple of those from prior runs, but I will end up buying that too. I like that blue L&N though.
Yeah, that came out really nice. Now these are great, especially if you're like me. I don't have a very big layout, as you can see. This is only 8 feet long. So if you've got a small switching layout like this, these little 40-footers lasted into the 70s. And you can do a lot of switching with these little 40-footers. A lot of fun. So this is a prototypical setup here with the 40-footers and the 1970s Boston and Maine. But we're going to put him in the hole here. And has anybody guessed out there? I think I see some people that have commented. So,
yep.
Yeah. People are getting wise to what's going on.
Saw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually haven't seen this thing yet myself, so this will be the first time for me as well.
This was let's see, yesterday we shot photography on this. It was the first time I had seen it. I'm really looking forward to these. This isn't really something I would normally get, but Tony, I'm like you. I'm kind of a sucker for these really cool paint schemes. Let's see if we can bring this guy up and bring him towards the camera. Let's see. I haven't even had a chance to put it into my proto throttle yet. All right, here we go.
And is this an Ace or is this a 7DM? I forget what the unit is on these special paints for these. Maybe
this is an SD70 Ace.
Yeah.
Minor clearance issues. It'll buff out, right?
And I think that this is going to be really popular, especially with Montana Rail Link, BNSF's taking them back over. But there's a veterans one, and is this first responders? There was two that they're close, but not the same kind of paint scheme. Yeah, this is, I think, essential workers. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that's
good looking.
Well, there it is.
You know, all the 2.0 lights on there, the number boards, the ground lights. Sweet.
Really nice. And that's something to mention yet. Somebody asked about ditch lights on those new 7DMs. I think with 7DM this time, I showed the shell off that there's no cabling, but the number boards are illuminated for the first time. And I can't remember, and I don't want to say it has ground lights if it doesn't. But I know some of the lighting is different on this run of these, even though it's not a new tooling piece. But yeah.
Yeah, usually within the Genesis line, we try to be faithful to the prototype. So like Janek was saying earlier, the SD70M-2 that we showed earlier, that one, since the prototype had the oscillating ditch lights, this one will too when you select the horn function. So it's one of those things that you know, our guys, we do a lot of they do a lot of research on this stuff, and it's not always simple, is it, Janek?
Well, and these doggone special paints. I mean, Janek, it's so, as I look at some of these and when I've had a chance to see some up close, you'll suddenly realize, oh, look at that. It's got this or that on the roof. I think I sent you guys pictures of what the UP, maybe it was that 1979 was here in Kansas City. And then I had my friend James Belmont shot it out in Utah. And again, there were things I never thought about, like, oh, look, it's got these stripes on the roof, which I would have never, it's like you don't, I mean, these special paints are really something to look for details.
I think it was the 1979. I was looking at roof shots of it, and the horn is painted 2 different colors. It's masked off. The exhaust stack is 2 different colors, even though it's going to be black after they turn it on for the first time and the soot comes out. But that, these things are crazy.
So, Frederick, if you're talking about that beautiful locomotive we see on our screen there on the lower left-hand corner, these are going to be here. Should be about the end of May, beginning of June. Now, please keep in mind that just with everything going on right now in the world, we are experiencing some shipping delays. So that holds true with the 70M-2, like what Tony's got behind him. But we're hoping to have these about the end of May, beginning of June. And if you pre-ordered these, and I hope you pre-ordered the thank you to the essential workers like we see here, because I have a feeling that these are going to go quick, but your dealer will be calling you soon. So it looks like Eric's got one ordered, and William looks like he's interested in Montana Rail Link, which was, we did not just this one, but we did the standard Montana Rail Link, which I never thought would be a fallen flag, but
it's been a while. I want to get up there because I've never got to see it before. And that's kind of been on the bucket list of my assistant editor, Shane Mason, and I both have wanted to do that. And I said to him, I said, the clock's ticking now. We got to get up there. And he's like, yep.
Yeah. Janek, did you ever get a chance to railfan Montana Rail Link?
No, I did not, unfortunately. It's a bit out of the way for me, and I was in college, so trains weren't cool during that time.
They weren't. Right, when did that happen? I don't remember that.
I still had them. I just only. But and then after that, I started working, so never got a chance to get out there.
Now, Frederick reminds me too. In this run, we did the UP Heritage units. We did the Mopac, the Western Pacific, and the Katy, wasn't it? That's the 3 that we did. And man, those are beautiful in their own right. Those are going to go quick. And the important thing is, now, Janek, this is another thing that you and the guys did. It would have been easy for us to just do those over again, but this run, this was based on the UP repaints they did. When did they do that, Janek?
It was around 2015, I think.
Okay.
And the differences are quite nuanced. Took me a few hours of poring over it just to find the little differences. But like on the WP unit, the feather is totally different on the new one. The Katy, they moved some of the artwork around significantly. And the Mopac one, that one was pretty similar, although it got a different horn. I got a horn off of the Gevo, actually. So that was kind of neat. But yeah, so they're not exactly the same as the ones we've done before. They're sort of the modernized versions with the PTC and the repaints.
Nice.
Somebody was asking too about the I just had this thing on my desk, so might as well throw that up there. This one's a little beat up because I've been digging around inside of it. But there's a CN one with the mismatched doors, so that's pretty cool.
Yep. And that's how that will come that way with the door goofed around.
Yep.
That's neat. Yeah, that's nice.
SD70M-2. Yeah, they mixed up. The doors are all the same size in the shop. Shop just puts them back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Looks like Brad ordered that one. That is a pretty cool. And that, of course, in fact, I think we used that picture in the packet when we advertise it, and it does happen. We see stuff like that on the BNSF when they'll switch out panels. It'll have in the old days, it would be red or silver, and nowadays we're seeing mismatch of Heritage 2 and Heritage 3 out there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it looks like we've got everybody all ready to do some modeling this weekend. I think we've fired up a lot of folks out there. Ben, I see your question there. I will probably be posting some pictures of that. Also, watch our TikTok account. I've been posting some stuff on TikTok on these SD70M-2s, so keep your eyes out on that. We'll definitely have some pictures and video of the Grand Trunk Heritage unit. I'm pretty excited about that because we were the first out of the gate. I think they repainted that locomotive in November or December, and we announced it in January of 2021. So pretty happy about that. Tony, any final thoughts for the evening as far as what we've talked about tonight and maybe what you're going to be doing over the weekend up there at Spring Creek?
More neat stuff. And yeah, as I say, I'll shoot a bunch of pictures and I'll put them up this weekend. I'm just going up for the day tomorrow, so I'll have stuff out on Model Railroad News' Facebook page, and we'll have coverage on the Fremo event. But those kind of things, yeah, especially now, as you say, that's more. And you said you're going to the Decatur show. Man, I can't tell you the treasures I've hauled out of there over the years. That show and the one in Springfield, Illinois, yeah, I've loaded the trunk a few times with some gems. So yeah, it's fun to get out and do
Tony,
that.
how can folks follow you and the magazine? You said you had a Facebook page?
There's Facebook pages for both Diesel Era, HO Collector, Model Railroad News. But if you go to modelrailroadnews.com or shop.whiteriverproductions.com, you can see our whole group of magazines. There's about 10 of them now, from Narrow Gauge Gazette, Railfan, Railroad Model Craftsman, TRP, Passenger Train Journal. I mean, you name it, there's a magazine for you. And the new Amtrak book, 50 Years of Amtrak, just came out, hardcover book. And I have a picture in it of one of the Chargers, and I didn't realize it. So I was flipping through, like, hey, that is my picture. Wow, cool. I think it's the first time I've had a picture in a book, so very cool. But that's new, and there's a Kansas City Southern book coming out in June from our publisher, Kevin U. Daly, and the work he's done covering the KCS. So you can see all our books and annuals and all that kind of good stuff is at shop.whiteriverproductions.com. So
Great. Janek, final thoughts?
Got a Kodachrome overload this month. Going to be picking up some of the telemotors as well. Keep the suggestions coming. Yeah, I know we didn't get to reply to everybody's comments this time around, but send them to the email. We keep track of them. I saw some just now that I've been writing down. We don't always have the best ideas internally. And no offense to the guys, but sometimes we're a little bit biased with our areas of interest. Jim keeps asking me for B&M stuff, and I keep pushing for more Santa Fe and Southern Pacific. There's more railroads out there than that. So we need you guys to tell us about the Northern Alberta Railroad and the Seaboard split image and all that cool stuff that maybe you grew up with that we didn't.
It's really a conspiracy, folks. What you need to do is you need to contact us on the Athearn product suggestions and come up with neat ideas for Janek and the team to work on. That way, we make sure that Tony gets those really cool railroads and road numbers and all that neat stuff. So see, it's a conspiracy, Tony.
It is. No, I think someone's, like I picked up that recently. And I know somebody did this to me on purpose. I mean, a BNSF in this little 50-ton hopper, I put it back on the shelf at Midwest Model Road about 3 times thinking no. And then it's like, oh, it's too cool. I got to have it. And I wish they'd had the 6-pack set, but they were already sold out. So I know some of that. Yeah, you guys just do those things to see. I'll bet Tony will buy that. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it works on us too, right, Janek?
When you appeal to that emotional side of things, that's when people start bringing out their wallets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. We, all of us here tonight, we're hobbyists too. We live and breathe model railroading, and we really do love interacting with you all. Now, while I got your attention too, I want to remind you, you can see us on Facebook, Instagram. We do have a TikTok account now. We're adding new videos weekly, so be sure to check that out. And of course, go to our YouTube channel. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell for updates of weekly videos that drop there, as well as these special monthly videos that we do for just kind of keeping you guys in the loop and having some interaction in between the train shows. Now, we are going full force into the train show season again. The next time you'll see Athearn, we're going to be at the St. Louis RPM prototype meet. Tony, I bet I'll see you there.
Yes. Yep.
And then before you know it, we're going to be at the National. That's coming up in August, the NMRA Nationals. So looking forward to seeing you all out there. And with that, I think we've given everybody enough inspiration to get some great modeling done this weekend. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
I think so. I think it's that time.
Absolutely. So everyone, thank you again for joining us for the Athearn Extra. I hope you enjoyed this program. Keep those comments coming into the Athearn product suggestion email. We really do appreciate it. While you're at it, go ahead and like us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And let's do some good modeling this weekend. Let's have a great weekend. Stay happy, stay healthy, be safe, and above all, high greens, everyone. Good night.